I never wanted to be a pastor. I wanted to be a preacher. Didn't want to be a leader of folk. But going back to those days at basketball, I guess those folks saw something in me that I didn't see, in myself.
And so around 1984, you started to interact with the Person County community. And it was around that year that you became a pastor for the first time. Talk about your introduction into being a pastor.
Well, I was driving my pastor back and forth. He was doing revivals in the Person County area. And I would drive him from Durham to the different churches in Person County. And this particular night, he was at Jones Chapel. And they were without a pastor. Their pastor had passed. And he introduced me to him. Candidate told me to send him a letter, send him my resume and everything, which I did. And so they heard me. And they called me. When a pastor dies or a pastor leaves and he's gone so long, the members begin to scatter. And that was one of the first things that I had to do. And I had a Deacon Morton. He would, take me around to the different peoples that they hadn't seen in a while. And, I would talk to them and, tell them what we had planned and what we were doing. And sure enough, gradually the church got built back up to where it was in their heyday, I guess. Now, I don't know whether it was heyday or not, but it got to a point where the church was packed. When I went there, Lord, I don't mean to be bragging, but when I went there, I had to call the choir down to sit in the congregation so I could have somebody to preach to. But after, months, years of interacting in the community, I had to stop it because when choir wouldn't have nowhere to sit if they came down. And I thank the Lord, for that.
But you were replacing
U.R. Booker at that time.
And of course, he had a major impact on his church and the Person County community. I know you had told the story that he had four
churches.
Churches at one time. At one point in his ministry. Back then, churches in this area didn't go to church every Sunday.
One church would go second and fourth, and then the other church was on first and third, and second and fourth. And a lot of times they took the fifth Sunday, they would rest, or some had ushers union or something on the fifth Sunday. But now that's one of the first things I did when I was at Jones was instituted the fifth Sunday. So we went first, third, and fifth. And went into community and put together a community choir. And that choir would sing every fifth Sunday. Being these churches didn't have service on fifth Sunday, a lot of the choir members from these churches joined Jones Chapel Missionary Baptist Church community choir. And you're talking about a choir. We had a choir.
So you started at Jones Chapel around 84.
84, first church.
And over the course of time, you also became introduced to New Hope Person.
New Hope Person.
So tell me how that happened, that you became introduced to New Hope Person, and how those staggered Sundays kind of set up a situation where you would be preaching at multiple churches.
Okay. What happened was, now I was at Jones 11 years, but I don't remember exactly. That's why I say 34, 35 years here. Somewhere in that 11 years, this church was doing the last 7 words of the risen Savior. One of the preachers that they got could not come. My sister was friends with one of the members here, and she told her, said, look, my brother is a minister at Jones Chapel. I'm going to give you his number, and you call him to see if he can come and fill in for this preacher. So that happened, and I came in and filled in for that preacher. And like I said, I've been here, had no idea, no mind to come and stay here and be here, because I was happy at Jones Chapel, you know.
Because they were second and fourth here.
Right. Preached there first, third, and fifth. Second and fourth, I would preach here. Now this was after the preacher that was here left. And I'm still waiting on them here to call a preacher. But I reckon since I was coming to second and fourth, they ain't need to call a preacher. But there again, you know, like I said earlier, I came to a Sunday school convention here. And that was the first time I had been here. And I turned down that corner, and the darker it got, the more I drove, the darker it got. I said, ain't no way in the world I would pastor a church out here in these woods. That was my exact, that's not the exact words. The exact words were, ain't no way in the hell I'll pastor no church out in these woods. That's what I said. But I guess somebody else had different plans. We, at Jones Chapel, now this is my figuring. I guess I had taken them to as high as I could take them in the 11 years I was there, and things got to. Anyway, we didn't see. Instead of me staying there fighting, I said, "Look, here's my resignation. I'll see y'all later." And so I came on here. Well, when I came here, it was the same situation because the members had scattered, and I had to call the choir stand down to have somebody to preach to. Well, after I was here, I don't know, maybe 6, 7, 8 months, deacons. Now you want me to tell this right? Tell the truth, right? You want me to tell the truth? The deacons called me back in the back there, and then now what I'm trying to do is teach. Well, I'm not at Jones anymore. I'm trying to get things lined up, things in order, get programs together, choir ministry, mission ministry, Sunday school ministry. I'm trying to get all this stuff going. Sunday school, Bible study. And they called me back there and told me, said, Reverend, said, we don't need all this you doing. Said, all we want you to do is come here and preach on Sunday morning, get your check and go home. That's what I was told. And I told them then, I said, well, brother, y'all I think y'all got the wrong person, you know. And it wasn't too much more said of that, because I kept coming, I kept trying to build, I think we had at one time we had five choirs here. At one time, my Bible study, I was teaching as much as, I'm going to say, In a heyday, about 34 people would come into Bible study. In the heyday, this church was filled, jam-packed, from choir to the back door. And there again, that goes for me going into the community, you know, surrounding myself by people that had like mind and putting them to work and putting together. Now, as far as I'm concerned, I got the best minister of music in the world. I mean, I know she gonna blush if she listens to this, but I got the best minister of music, you know, in the world. I put her up against anybody, you know. So that she's been a great help to me as far as music ministry.
You're
is
talking
concerned.
about Dr. Lieber Boyd.
Dr. Lieber Boyd. That's exactly right. That's been my right hand as far as music is concerned.